All right, let's dive into it, man. We
The
can't.
topic of the weekend, Eric.
Okay. Big Ten expansion. Oregon and Washington join USC and UCLA. Now what? Chris, go. You just take off. You lead this one, man, because I was on vacation. You're like, hey, have you heard? And I'm like, did it happen? And you're like, yeah, it's official. And you were dropping stuff on our Facebook page. I have results from the Facebook poll that we can talk about here shortly, but you go ahead. You lead this discussion.
So, Eric, last week we sat here on this show, and my quote was bury the Pac 12. What's happened? UCLA, USC, they were already coming to us. As predicted, Utah, Arizona State, all headed with Colorado to the Big 12. You know, I had actually called, I think, originally Oregon and Stanford was coming over, even though we knew Washington had already been in the works. But it was Washington and Oregon. Guys, this is not over. It's not over by a long shot. Um, I really think, and I'm going to get into where I think we're going next here in a few minutes after you get a chance to respond, Eric. But Eric, this makes the Big Ten, the premier brand in college football. Now, I'm not going to say they are the premier conference, specifically in football, in the country, because there's a lot of room for debate there, especially given the success that the SEC's had. It's hard for us to come out and claim we are the premier conference in college football. But what we are is we are the premier brand now in college football with the national reach, the big media markets. I don't think there's any question about it. Big Ten Sports is the premier brand in all of college sports right now. Now, is this good for college sports? Is it good for the student athletes? A lot of debate, to be had on that. I've heard specifically a lot of the Pac 10, 12, 4, whatever they are now, coaches and administrators come out and say, hey, you didn't think about the effect on the student athletes, how the travel is going to be. Maybe not so much on the football players, but what about the basketball players? What about the softball players, the baseball players?
Right.
How's that going to affect them? Guys who are playing more than once a week. But you know what? It doesn't really matter. You can debate all you want. The fact is, just like in NIL, right now, there's no turning back or reining this in at this point. College football is on a collision course for what I think will ultimately be three super conferences and an everybody else. Um, and I've got some ideas on how that's going to break down, how that's going to go. But Eric, I want to get your take on what's going on right now.
So I think you hit the nail on the head. When Karen Warren brought in the LA schools, it made a lot of sense from the aspect of the finances for the TV deal.
Yeah,
And I don't think he had the foresight to think about what this does scheduling wise for the Olympic sports. USC and UCLA saw the writing on the wall. They knew the Pac 12 was in trouble. They knew they had no television deal in place. And they knew if they were going to continue to be relevant in football, which pays for everything else, they had to jump ship. I believe Kevin Warren, as we like to call him, Karen Warren, left the Big Ten in a very interesting situation when he made this deal. First off, he didn't even complete the contracts. How lame is that,
you
right?
got to sign the paperwork, Eric.
So it, I think he left Tony Patetti without a choice here. He had to do this
Yes.
for travel purposes, scheduling purposes, and I also think he sees the writing on the wall that with the way the ACC is currently shaping out, if if we don't jump on a couple more, then what's going to happen when the SEC responds with Clemson and Miami? Or do they get really bold and they jump out there and take Oregon and Washington? I can't see the SEC doing that. But I look at this. and go with the whole aspect of, I believe Patetti realized he really didn't have any other choice. He had to do this.
Yeah.
Larry Daniels agrees with you on the mega conference. Also, he says, is Chris warming up to Ryan Day?
Ask me again in 111 days.
Dylan, UCLA coming in means I'll get to see my Boilers in the Rose Bowl one way or another.
Don't even get me started on the whole Rose Bowl thing. The
I
Rose Bowl
know.
is officially dead and buried at this point.
Oh, Chris.
It
Donald
is.
Hoffer.
It's dead and buried, Eric. You can have no more Big Ten versus Pac 10 because there is no more Pac 10. It's a Pac 4 that's about to be a Pac
Right.
2.
Right. Well, Chris, the Rose Bowl died shortly after the BCS.
I agree.
It's not been the same. You got guys
And then
sitting
with the
out the Rose Bowl.
CFP, it went
When
even
you got
worse.
players sitting out the Rose Bowl because it's a consolation prize, it's
Yes.
already lost what it means.
Yeah.
Looks like the Big Ten schedule for 2024 was was posted a tad early. Yes, exactly. I wonder if they will redo the protected rivals. They're going to have to, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, Eric, I've got some really interesting thoughts on how this is going to.
Yeah, I think Frank's beat you to it. I'd expect regionalized in-season tourneys for non-revenue sports. For example, two lacrosse event at USC where every Big Ten school plays 3 to 4 games. That I thought about that. Especially in like baseball. You
Yes.
know how the baseball team goes down Florida every weekend, or the Carolinas to play. They'll go out west and they will play probably 6 games in 6 days, 3 against USC, 3 against UCLA, something like that.
Yeah. And
Or
they'll take 2 road trips. They'll do one against Oregon, one against Washington.
in
If,
baseball, they might end up playing Oregon or Washington down in LA when they go to play
yeah.
USC or UCLA at their field. I agree with you, Frank. Um, so here, let me get to this real fast. So this was our poll question. 714 people saw it. I think we had almost 200 people respond in just what was that? 7 hours.
Yeah.
It was
One
up
long.
there. I gave you 4 options. What is your feelings about Big Ten expansion? Wish it would have never happened. Wish they would have stopped at USC, UCLA. I think it's awesome. They added 4 pack Pacific schools, but they should stop. Or I hope they keep adding more schools. Very split, Chris. 53% kind of love the idea, with 10 of them saying they need to stop. 43% say let's keep going. Let's just keep adding. See how big we can get. Um, 7% said I wish they would have stopped at USC and UCLA. And 40% said I wish it would have never happened at all. So leave it the way we had it before. Chris, what do you think about that, man? Like, is that interesting to you to see that?
Not really, because I'll tell you, Eric, I'm a traditionalist. I
Mm-hmm.
believe I wish it had never happened. However, I see the need for why it had to happen. Um, if it didn't happen, you were going to have the SEC come in and do it. Um, it it's sad that it had to happen, but I think it did have to happen. And I'll tell you right now, Eric, it's not done.
Mm-mm. How many do we get to? Put your comments.
I, okay,
Put your prediction in the comment section. When it's all said and done, and the Big Ten is officially a mega conference, how many schools will be in the Big Ten after all of this realignment is finally finished? Are we going to stay at 18? Do we go to 20? Is it 24? What's your number? Put your prediction in the comment section.
okay. For me, Eric, it's this. While everybody's talking about the Big Tens, if we go to 20 teams, which I think is really nice, I feel like it's going to be 24 before all is said and done. This is the reason why. College football is going to be a mini NFL very soon. I think you see the SEC, the Big 12, and the Big 10 all at 24 teams. Now, the Big 12 is going to have to take some average teams, I think, along the way, or less than average teams to get to that number. But Sorry, Notre Dame, Army, UConn, UMass, there will be no more independence. It's just not going to be feasible. I think you will have another group of schools, much like we have the group of five now. Um, but this is the thing, it's going to become an NFL style thing. You're going to have the mega conferences, I think, split into 4 16 divisions. You're going to have a semifinal and final, um, with the winner of each division playing the semifinal in a Final Four style, then the two playing to determine who comes out of that conference. I see the each of those three putting their champion along with the group of whatever's left champion into a Final Four style tournament. You're going to see a 16 game champion. It's just how it's going to happen. I envision five. You get these divisions. You'll have 5 games within your division. You're going to have one opponent from your other 3 divisions, 4 large games. Um, college sports is all about the money at this point. I think that's where they get to the money is by doing it in that fashion.
For some reason, 24 is in my head. That's
Yeah,
where we're going.
I feel like it's
And
going to be there.
I also believe that um, what I'm hearing from the quote unquote national writers and experts is that the Big Ten might be done with the West. What I'm getting, so Stanford and Cal have both put their names in the hat as well now.
I think that they come on, Eric. I really do.
I think Stanford's
Because
only
I think, like I said, 4 16 divisions. That would be 6 teams out west.
I would see Stanford coming on only if Notre Dame comes with them.
I think they bring Stanford on to get Notre Dame.
Man, I hope it's not Stanford and Cal. I can't stand Cal.
I feel like it's going to be. Um, and you know what, Donald? I don't know that I disagree with his picks.
Pitt will never be in the Big Ten.
Oh, come on. He wants the Big Ten.
It's
He wants
not
to come in. He would win the Big Ten every year, Eric.
Penn State won't let it happen. It's like Cincinnati in the Big Ten with Ohio State. Ohio State would never let that happen. We are the only Big Ten school in Ohio. Done.
So Pitt goes to the Big 12, or do they end up in the group of everybody else?
Probably Big 12 with West Virginia, Cincinnati,
I can see that.
Louisville, Cincinnati, Pitt, West Virginia.
I
They're
definitely
all in
see
the Big
Notre
12.
Dame. I think we make a push for Clemson. I think
Syracuse isn't a
Florida
big enough
State.
market. I mean, the whole idea behind Maryland and Rutgers was you get the DC and New York market.
They
But
need
although
Miami.
Miami's in play, Florida State's in play, um, because it's a national brand. It's a big brand. Even though Tallahassee's not a huge market,
Yeah.
Florida State's in play. Florida State's obviously trying to get out of their deal with the ACC. They're being the most aggressive out of
Yeah,
all the
they're actually
ACC
looking to
teams.
private investors to buy their way out right now.
Yes. They're literally selling their athletic department to private investors. How
Yes.
crazy is that? You want to own a part of Florida State? What if they go on like the NASDAQ and you can buy stock in Florida State?
Yeah.
How crazy would that
That
be?
that tells you where we are at right now.
Yes. Um, I just don't know how much longer the ACC is going to be able to hold up. They're trying to be aggressive with the whole um, additional television marketing ESPN is throwing out them with the
The CW and all that.
CW.
There's
Don't be
nothing.
surprised if they jump on like an Amazon Prime, something like that, to get additional revenue to try to stay close enough for the remainder of their contract so that ESPN doesn't lose the if the ACC implodes, think about this, ESPN is losing them. ESPN will lose some of those
And
schools to the Big
Eric,
10, which is Fox, CBS, and NBC now.
ESPN is struggling right now. We know
I
this.
know they are.
Look at the number of people that they have had to let go in the last few months.
Yeah, they've let go some of the
E-
better guys too. With
ESPN is struggling, and I'll tell you, I think the Big Ten and the SEC, they can smell it. They smell the blood in the water.
Donald, I think the Big Ten wants to go south.
Yeah.
I
It-
I think they want to invade SEC country. I think the Big Ten wants to be viewed as the coast to coast, east to west, north to south conference. We are the NFL of college football. SEC, that's nice. You have your little Southern Conference there. That's great. Guess what? We are coast to coast.
yeah.
We're in
You be
every
the
major market.
you be the Arena League. We'll be the NFL.
That it there. This is an arms race. Do not get this. Let me explain to you what's happening. This is World War II happening
Yes.
between the major television markets,
Mhm.
television companies.
Yes.
That's what's happening here. This is this is literally World War II. They are going to war with each other, and the fact that the Big Ten brought together the Fox, CBS, and NBC all together is
It's
like the
genius.
United States, Great Britain, and the powers coming together to take down. The,
Hitler and Stalin. Yeah.
yeah, that's what's happening, guys, and that's what's the money that's being thrown around is just
And it's
ridiculous.
going to get crazier, Eric. It's going to get crazier.
So, what's next, Chris? I mean, it's so hard to predict. Did I believe the Big 12 officially got Arizona and Arizona State, correct?
Well, I'm not 100% sure that the ink's dry on it yet, but I'll tell you, I know that both of them have submitted their applications.
I know
From what I,
Arizona's in for sure.
yes, from what I've heard, they've both submitted their applications, as has Utah, and the
Utah
Big
has
12.
as well.
Yes, and the Big 12 is eager to take them all in.
So Arizona, Arizona State, Utah,
Yeah,
kind of like what we predicted, is going to be in the Big 12.
correct.
All right.
That
Oregon,
leaves
Washington now in the Big 10.
Oregon State,
Oregon
Washington
State and
State,
Washington State are they're out.
Mountain
No one
West,
wants them.
Mountain West, right there.
Yep, no one wants
Um,
them. The
Cal,
Pac-12 and Mountain West are going to have to combine. Is what's going to have to happen.
we are going to get Stanford in the Big Ten. Make no mistake about it.
I don't. Why?
I think we get them because they draw Notre Dame, Eric. If you
That's the only reason. That would be the only reason. You cannot tell me if we bring Stanford in, it better be because Notre Dame comes with them. Cal is not worth it. Do not bring Cal in.
uh,
They are a problem politically for your conference.
yes.
Trust me.
Oh yeah, you're going
Trust
to
me
see.
on that. I don't. This is not a political show. We're not getting into politics. We're not telling you how to vote on issue one, Buckeyes.
There'll
But
be
I am
riots on
telling
campus when
you,
they show up.
Cal is a problem.
Yeah.
Don't let them
Um,
in, dude. They do not line up with Midwestern values. I promise you. They
no,
are an issue. And Stanford's right behind them, by the way. They
they
just
are.
have a tremendous medical program and law program.
But I
But
think Stanford makes sense from two reasons, and I talked about this last week. I think Stanford makes sense because of the connection to Jim Harbaugh and the connection to Notre Dame. I think that you can play up both those in itself for Stanford. Um, something else that people have not mentioned, and it's a big TV market. It's a fair football team. They got ties to Ohio State. I still think Boston College could be in play.
again, that's a tie with Notre Dame.
Yeah,
Um, got the Boston market. Yeah.
that one makes good sense to me. If you get those, like I said, if we're going to sit here and try to
What?
round out,
Frank, explain this one to me. Frank, you're really smart. You're an intelligent human being. We've had you on the show. I value your opinion, but tell me this. Why would Michigan want Cal and Stanford?
because there is,
They align with them. How? Are you talking politically? Are you talking
yes,
like Northwestern? I get. Northwestern and Stanford are pretty much the same thing. One
yeah,
happens to be in Chicago. The other one happens to be on California and the West Coast. But
Michigan's very much
are
in
they?
lockstep with them. Yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Let me know,
Frank's
Frank. Let me know
absolutely,
in the comments. If you don't want me to
but
post it, just say don't post. Just I'm interested in why you said. Okay, yeah, politically. Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Um, but I like the idea, and I could see that happening. Unfortunately, um, I would like a push for Boston College. Obviously, you said we want to get further south. I love the idea of Miami, just for the market share. I would love Duke or North Carolina, but I
North
just
Carolina's coming kicking and screaming a little bit. They are upset with Florida State being so public about things, and I don't get it.
It's because
I
Florida
think
State
North
outsmarted
Carolina.
them on figuring out how to get out of the deal.
I think North Carolina looks at this and realizes if this happens, we're going to be broke up with Duke, and they
Unless
look.
they go wherever as a package.
I can't see. See, that's it.
Now,
The
this is
S
the thing.
the
They could be
SEC will
one.
not take Duke.
They could be one that slides to the Big 12, though. You could see the two of them go as a
Uh,
package to the Big 12, especially in basketball. They would dominate the Big 12.
well, hold on. You got
Well, you
Kansas
got
now in the Big
Kansas,
12
but
and Arizona.
you know what? They would make an argument for the best basketball conference in the country with those four.
Big Ten's gonna
Big Ten's good, but if they
with
land North
with
Carolina, Duke,
UCLA.
Arizona, and
This is not a basketball podcast. We have Big Bander's got another one of them, but Chris, we're getting ready to go into overtime. I know.
well, that's what we do.
I know. I want your final thoughts on college football expansion, Big Ten expansion, and what your prediction is. Will we see anything else this year, or are we done for a year until the season's over?
I still think we see action out of what's left of the Pac-12 this season. They've got to
Okay.
get someplace before the beginning of next season. They've got to get in on a TV deal. Um, Notre Dame, what next year is their negotiating year?
With NBC, they're negotiating currently.
They're negotiating currently. You could
Not
see that
no announcement on anything yet, though.
you
That's what's
could
interesting.
you could see Notre Dame be in play right now.
Mm, I don't think they're in play right
I
now. They're
don't. I think they're in
they're
play.
going to
I'm not
hold
saying
out. They
they're
are
not
going
going
to
to
hold
join,
out to the very end.
but
They
you
are
know
going.
what? Here's
They're
the
going to
thing:
have. They will hold out until they are forced
if
to join, or the money tells them they have to
if
join.
Ohio State signs Stanford, or I'm sorry, if Big Ten signs Stanford, you can forget about
Freudian
it.
slip.
They've got to join the conference
All right. Here's my
because we
final
can force their
thoughts.
hands.
Here's my final thoughts. I agree with you, Chris. I think the what you're going to see is the teams that are remaining um, in the Pac-12 are going to align themselves with the Mountain West or the WAC, probably the Mountain West, and and the Pac. I don't know what they'll call it. I don't know if the Mountain West will fold into the Pac-12 or the Pac-12 will fold into the Mountain West or some kind of combination of that. I believe you're going to see Florida State go to war in the courtroom to get released from that contract this year. They will petition the ACC and it will be fought out in the courtroom on what's going on with that. And if they have the money to buy their way out, they will. And I think they will. When they do that, they will become an independent on the market for
The
whatever
highest
next
bidder.
year, whatever. And who's the highest bidder? Who wants us? And at that point, I think you're going to see the other ACC schools start to try to do the same.
Beginning with Miami.
And if enough of them go about doing that, um, then we're done. Interesting question. David Gilmore says, Chris, if this were true, why didn't Notre Dame come over with USC?
Here's the thing: USC coming over basically aligned them. It didn't really affect them that much. It was one rival coming over that they play on a yearly basis. Well, you know what? They play at least one Big Ten a year anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big deal.
It's usually multiple.
Multiple usually. Usually it's what Michigan State or Michigan, and then another Purdue or somebody.
Right. Plus,
But
USC was never going to be a package deal with Notre Dame. They
correct.
were always going to be a package deal with UCLA because they
UCLA.
were already Pac 12 rivals, Pac 12 partners, and city partners.
But if you land USC, if you land uh, Stanford, if you make a play for a Boston college, you force Notre Dame's hand or a Florida
Only
State. Even.
only if you tell those schools and they agree to not schedule Notre Dame anymore until they become a member. That's the
And
only way you're going to
do you think
force
with
them
that money
through
being thrown
scheduling.
at them, they're not going to do that?
I mean, I don't know. Depends on what
What do you?
television market's like.
What's your argument to keep the game? Tradition? Hell, tradition's out the window, Eric.
I,
Tradition. There is no more tradition. It's gone.
It's gone. You're
Tradition is
right.
history.
It is. It is. You're
So
right. You're
it's all
right.
about the money right now.
You're right. You're right. That's our show for this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed the discussion, the banter, the slight introduction into politics into this. We try not to
We
do
give a
that.
little bit of everything, Eric.
We try not to do that. We try to make this an escapism from politics. Politics is so divisive in our country, and I love what John Kennedy said about. He said, "College football hate is really love." It's so true. We love to hate each other. That's why we love college football. Um, there's more of a brotherhood there than there is in any other item that you can hitch your wagon to in this country that causes you to hate your neighbor and then at the same time put your arm around them. So that I love that comparison.